Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this non-stop morning of sessions that we're gonna have and interviews where I'm super happy, and it's something that I was going to apologize a little bit because so far our interview talk session room, I'm not sure yet how to call this, has been only a boys club, and I am today trying consciously to fix that. And for that, I walked yesterday into my good old friend, Cheryl Raya. Did I pronounce it well? Because
Absolutely.
I've been butchering names all morning. And first, as a, well, she's a lady. I'm super happy to have her representing. And not only that, there are so many layers, so many things about Cheryl that I'm super happy to have you here and that you agree to come up and talk with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
No, it's a huge honor, a pleasure. And as usual, to start off, for people not familiar with you, your work, what you have been doing, or what you like, what's up with Cheryl?
Basically, I am a former software developer who got thrown into QA because they needed a development background,
Mm-hmm.
easy background. And then I found out that it's a lot more fun to break it than to make it. So now, currently, I am a senior software engineer at NIPR, who NIPR does basically, if you have an insurance agent, then they have to get a license, a number from us.
Okay.
So, in other words, everybody had to interact with us in one way or another.
Interesting.
So, I get to do automated tests, and I also get to mentor others
Oh.
because I get to teach them how to do automation. And then the ones that are already ready, familiar with the automation, I get to teach them how to interpret the business rules because I've been there enough
Wow.
time to help interpret those and learn the tips and tricks on, okay, now this means this, but this is how you apply it and how you create those tests so we can do it. You know, currently, about a year ago, I want to say a year and a half ago at most, we had somewhere around 3 to 5,000 tests when I got to join. We're now over 26,000 tests.
When I was hearing that yesterday, I was like, my jaw was on the floor. I was like, short on breath. Like, how do you even, right?
Well, like some days when I get bored, I create 100 tests.
And those are the boring days, right?
Exactly.
Oh my, it's it's incredible. It's impressive, and also with all the, it's not only, and you opened up very well with first developer
Yeah, absolutely.
and second QA by accident, would I say?
Yes.
And you are adding up to a pattern with many others that I have talked to that ended up in QA. Like you know development, you may be able to test this. Come and help us. Pretty much your story, right?
Very much. One place I went to, they the interview was for what I thought was a developer role, but it was developing automated test because they were
Mm.
using the same language that I was familiar with. Another place I was at after that, um, they needed somebody who had a specific skill set because the testing tool used a programming language. And there weren't that many people, even in our division at that point in time, who had that skill set. I did. And then it just morphed in that. And to the point where I found out that I'm really good at this because I have that mindset to be able to test those boundaries and dig in and make sure that it's, basically, while we're not that stopgap as QA, you are that last advocate for that customer.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can put that mindset of, hey, how would how if I was using this as a customer, how would I want to interact with this?
You are the protector and defender of the user,
Exactly.
kind of.
And it's a nice role to be in for me, and I really enjoy it. One story I have is I had a developer who we became great friends.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully, because he
That's the
thought,
best case. We should be friends with
oh,
developers.
absolutely.
No more war against each
There is
other,
no
bro.
war. I mean, because especially with automation for QA, we are developers. You are
Hmm.
developing automated tests versus developing code that's going to go out the door. It's
If
the
I
same thing.
if I may ask, and you mentioned that you jumped into a tool to automate
Mhm.
and it had development language. What tool and what language was it?
It was
Just for
Visual Basic and it was UFT.
cool. Yeah, you're right. You have to use the Visual
Way back. Okay,
VB.
it's been a while.
Yeah. No. I remember having that lack of semicolons for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Gave me some issues, but
But yes, and we had one developer who, because I have a somewhat competitive nature. Not competitive against, like, say, you. Like, I can find more
personal
bugs.
improvement.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
And so I try to make it anything I can do better. And he was also competitive, and so he was like, "Oh, here, go find a bug." We did 12 rounds of that.
Cool.
And to the point where I basically asked him, can we stop this and you just go fix what I've found so far? And then let me go test it again because I'm going to beat this up. And to this day, he will credit me with him being a better developer
Yeah,
because the best developers are the ones that are actually testing their code. You just can't throw it over the wall as a developer. It's a whole process. Development is not just about creating code.
yeah,
It's creating a product and being able to deliver it. And in order to deliver something, it's got to be deliverable, something that's useful.
a great quality containing product
Absolutely.
from step one. That should be, and you're opening my eyes on some ways to tell or explain, because yeah, many times the framework that I tell people like, hey, have the QA person before the developer so that they can give that, because QA you start to develop other skills like worst case scenarios, what can go wrong. We start to be a little bit pessimistic. At a time, being QA, coworkers started to call me Mr. Negative because, like, oh, this will break here. You are so pessimistic always. But that's the mindset that if the developer can start understanding and integrating into what they create, like, yeah, it's no need to be negative, right?
But it's not negative. It's you're trying to figure out
What can go wrong and
what can
stuff
go
it.
wrong. I mean, I remember as a developer, I created one method, or so. It wasn't too much code. I would say less than 100 lines of code.
Hmm.
But we ended up with over 200 tests for that 100 lines of code.
Yeah. It's not.
And it wasn't test exhaustion because at that point in time,
Hmm.
there were still paths I could have taken.
When you start to open your panorama view of quality elements that have to be, that probably may have been the just minimum basic tests that that
Absolutely.
function should have passed.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting because you get that vision and you transmit it to the developers of how many things do they have to pay attention to, right?
Oh, yes.
it's it's funny because in some projects, I'm sure it has happened to you. You come up like, hey, and what happens if I type this into your
Oh,
new method?
absolutely.
They're like, oh, never thought of that. But you are already like based on experience
Right.
learning and
Absolutely. And because of that QA experience, I believe, I can usually see a scenario going around even in the office and run with scenarios and go, well, in 6 months, this is going to happen. And I've actually had things happen like that before. And I've had managers go up to me and, you said that was going to happen. I told you it would never happen. And here it is.
you need to carry around a crystal ball and a spooky
Exactly.
person like, ooh, it's
Oh,
gonna
that's a new accessory I've never thought of.
no, because when you have that, I joke with a lot with the Thundercats reference. I've gotten to a point that I have sight beyond sight, and I can tell you what is going to happen. And in management, sometimes they have been like, "Nah, that's not going to happen." Like, I'm so sure, $100. Do you want a game? I'm that sure. And people won't believe, or why is that? Why are you so sure? Like, but I'm sure that you're at a point that you don't even think about it. You know it's gonna happen. Like you see the pieces coming together, and it's great to see that you got to that point. Can you thank part of that wisdom that you carry around because you started as a dev?
Probably so. But in my background, I
In
mean,
part.
I was a dev in middle school.
Cool.
My father brought home, my father was a mainframe installer. He got to
Okay.
travel the world and install mainframes all different places. So we had a computer in our home probably sooner than a lot of people did. And I was writing code and learning how fun it was. And it was easy for me.
Hmm.
And so I began coding well before I was out of high school, just for
Wow.
fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
And it was a natural progression for me. And it's I even got to go into junior achievement because it was based out of the company my father worked with, and we were
Cool.
selling items that were computer related. So I got business skills, I got development skills, even as a high schooler. And I knew when I was going out of high school what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I use that term loosely because I'm not sure I've grown up yet. Um, but
I love
it's
that.
I wanted to be a developer, when I grew up, and I still am.
Yeah.
I don't care if my title is senior quality engineer. That engineer part means I'm coding.
My mental image or my belief is that when they say for agile teams that you're multi-hat and you switch them,
Absolutely.
you don't switch them. You just add them up, and you
Yes.
start putting a stack MM.
And I've, not in my current position, but the one right before this, I actually had developers asking, I would ask them questions like, okay, this is what's wrong with your code because here's the bug, but have you ever thought about doing X, Y, and Z? They came back to me a day later and went, how did you know that was going to work?
Hmm.
you know, and the thing is, I've actually even offered to help the developers write unit tests when they were running crunch times. To me, automation's automation. I don't care if I'm automating, X or Y. If I'm helping the team progress and get that product out the door in the time it needs to be, let's do it. It
Yeah.
is that team approach, and I really don't think that we need to have the division of labor. You
No,
know,
and it's way more efficient. It's better, easier, and I always joke that there's less sweat, tears, and blood and all that.
oh yeah,
Yes.
and think about having peer programming with having a developer and a QA
Hmm.
versus two developers. You're going to get a totally different set of tests being written, unit test, integration test, everything else. I mean, the mindset also will change on those developers because they're going to become more quality minded, in my opinion.
No, no, no. It's a both sides need to start to share the knowledge
Oh,
both ways.
absolutely.
Super important. I totally agree with you.
You,
And
and to me, the very first thing that you should be testing are those business rules.
yeah,
I've been really advocating that lately and trying to get the other testers on my team to shift their mindset because it's not quite there. Some of them have been manual testers for a long time, but they haven't dug down into those business rules. I'm being that hyper attention to detail, business rules going, okay, there's a typo in this sentence, and okay, this number is wrong. But that's the very first thing we're testing. If those things are not right, how do you know that what the code is going to be developed is right? And then how do you know that the tests are going to be easy to write based on everything else? I mean, you're going from level 1 to level 2 to level 3. Let's catch it at the very earliest stage. And it's also going to be cheaper that way than fixing it
cheaper,
way.
easier, faster, like
Exactly.
less sacrifices and less problems.
Absolutely.
And I don't know. I would love to keep talking on this one, but there's another topic that I also want to cover. When you mention your childhood, how you started, how you got into. Two questions pop in my mind right away. Was it tough, like at a personal level, as a girl in high school, to be into programming? Did you feel any different, or um,
Good question. I have, when I was in school, I was probably, in software testing, the ratio they say is about 70 to 30,
mhm,
70% male, 30% female. When I was in school, it was probably closer to the ratio of 10%,
yeah,
at most. And in most of my career, I would say probably 90% of my career, I'm the only female in the room,
wow,
and literally the entire room.
hmm,
And, so purposely, nowadays, when I'm out, I purposely try to wear more dresses
hmm,
and make myself known that I'm female, because I'm done hiding it. But for the longest time, I had to hide that. I felt
wow,
like it because I wasn't being accepted because I was female.
ouch,
And I was actually treated like the one that was going to take the notes in the meetings and things like that.
oh,
And it didn't matter the fact that I was, producing as much code as the person next to me,
or
but
even more.
possibly and probably, but it was because I was female.
Ouch. And I wonder, similar to that, that is discouraging. Sadly, that is discouraging to stay sitting in those rooms, right?
It is, but I got to the point of what can I take and what I can't take.
Mm-hmm.
And about, 6 years ago, I took a leap of faith. I decided I'm done with development. I really don't want to pursue this at this point in time. I really want to focus my career on QA.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't really any openings at my current location.
Really?
I mean, not for QA at that time.
Okay.
I quit my job without another one in sight.
Cool. So
And
talking about decision, like that's I'm done here.
exactly. And in 3 weeks, I had a new job,
Wow. Not
paying better
surprised.
money, paying better money, and it was in QA.
Cool.
And since that point in time, my career has done nothing but rise.
Oh,
So
good, good.
it was the best decision for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and look at here now, I get to be speaking at this conference. I was at Star East as an attendee. I'm a speaker here.
And a very good speaker.
Thank you very
We're
much.
gonna get into that in a moment. And with those words, you're motivating. You are encouraging. I hope ladies, girls, females, women,
It's don't
however.
put up with the nonsense is what I call it. Respect yourself, and that's what it comes down to. Because if other people don't respect you, that's fine. That's their behavior. It
Mm-hmm.
is your response to their behavior that you have to own. And if you're not happy, find something that makes you happy,
Yeah.
because life is too short to go around not happy. And honestly, your work's going to suffer.
Yeah. No, no, everything is affected.
Oh,
Personal,
absolutely.
psychological, blah blah,
Health,
everything.
your health is going to suffer. I
Yeah,
mean, you need to be happy, and you need to be, in a place that's going to support you.
yeah. No, and that's. I'm happy that more organizations are opening up to that, are supporting it. There are a few ones that where you will feel awkward or that,
Exactly.
but it's as easy as you say. Step away from that. You don't want to be on those places. You don't want to be on the meetings where you are giving the notepad to take the notes of the meeting, or
Pretty much, yeah.
just to step away from that. That's as easy. I like it because many I have seen are afraid, like, what if in the next job I'm not accepted because I don't take notes, or
What about it? Why can't
there's gonna be
the
one.
developer take the notes? Maybe they're not taking as good a notes as you are because you've got high attention to detail.
Who cares who takes the
Right,
notes? You
exactly.
are there to develop, to do QA, to do your
You're doing a
stuff.
job. I mean, if someone needs a scribe, there's other positions in there, and maybe The BA needs to be taking the notes, male or female, it doesn't matter who they are, because I work with both. Maybe the scrum master can help out and write down those notes.
No, no, and it's not about notes. I mean, like,
Right. Yeah,
make your own
exactly.
sandwich, you man, and
Oh,
so
anything.
please.
Get the coffee, whatever. Make the order for the lunches. And
Yeah,
trust me, I have done that before.
great.
But
No,
it's matter of it's a teamwork. In today's society, especially as we go, a lot of these organizations are going more agile. And like you said, the
mhm.
multiple hats. Let's play with those multiple hats. Let's challenge and do those pair programming with that developer and see what they can do better. And honestly, it's going to make you a better QA person too, because you're
Yeah.
going to get to understand what's going on, what they have to go through to get those configurations right.
This is a matter of inclusion, and you just touched a very good point that I wanted to um, abort. And it's not only inclusion, female, male, but skills. Like, you are not tagged, I'm just a developer. You're not tagged, I'm just this. And for the QA, we're gonna be the only ones that we give the test cases to,
Right.
because um, it's like, you only take notes, you only do test cases, you only blah. Those banners have to be broken, right?
The team doesn't fail because the QA doesn't get the job done. The team fails because the team didn't get the job done.
It's a team responsibility.
Absolutely.
Everyone is bringing up that baby, that solution, that system. We want our babies to be pretty, right? We all share the responsibility. That's a very important matter to have into account. And from what you say, the numbers, the statistics that you shared, that now it's 30%, 70%. I remember when I was in college, it was the same. IT career, group of 50 people, five were women.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because I remember we were picking up on them, making fun. We were that horrible, horrible. I want deny horrible behaviors that we have to let go, live in the past. And I'm super glad that, seeing under 10%, we are getting to 30. Hopefully, eventually, we will go to the middle. We will have equal representation. It won't even be a topic. Hopefully, I
I would love to see that. And with STEM going stronger, and that encouragement from the lower ages of girls as they grow, they're going to hopefully get into these more tech fields, which I'd love to see.
you keep hitting nails on heads, because that's another one. I recognize, I have seen that once you are at the job and once you are on a working age, it's not pretty, and you are being given some weird tasks just because you're a woman and all that. But to start off, and I won't play down that, even in school, high school, and even when you are at adult quotes, we never get there age. Along the way, there are a lot of struggles. But my my curiosity, and kind of explains a lot on your background, is that girls are not choosing this type of careers, areas, or things, or even when they are young,
Right.
they don't stick to them because it's not cool for a lady to be doing this, or um,
We have female welders. What is not a, at this point in time, what is a non female role? I don't understand that.
yeah, I mean,
In fact, we've had women welders since World War One. I mean, they were taking the place of the men that were off fighting the war. So this is not a new phenomenon. We have
well,
to recognize that this has been ongoing, but those women were displaced once the men came back because they were seen as less
who were the
valuable.
first developers? Women. And everything started there. I really dislike that at a point someone in marketing or somewhere decided blue is for boys, video games and toys, Barbies for girls, pink and all that. Let's divide it and make everyone. If I want to play with a Barbie, stop judging me. Vice versa. If you want a Hot Wheels, get a computer, video game. We have this discussion at home, and it's funny because To my fiance, she was like, this guy, an ex-boyfriend, was just killing zombies in the video games, and that's so bad because guys into their video games. And I was like, you play more video games than I do. No. What do you think you do on your cell phone with a little? But that's solitaire. That's a video game.
Right.
Like, how do you want to see it? And eventually, she started to let go to those like stereotypes, like girls don't like video games, boys shouldn't play with dolls, like all those things that we need to tear down those differences, right?
It's they're games. Period. They're not gender based. Yes, there are some that are more targeted toward females, but that I have friends that play, some of the RPG games
Yeah.
that are females. I mean, and as far as Hot Wheels, well, I have the grown up version of that
Cool.
because
What?
in my garage I have a 1966 Ford Thunderbird and I have a
Okay.
1969 Mustang.
Oh wow. That's a big Hot Wheels. Those grown-up toys, I would call them, but
Yes.
still not the stereotypical type of toy that one will get, or
Oh,
uh,
absolutely. And
um,
and when I go to car shows, I will have men turn their heads when I say, "Ooh, look at that flat V6, flat six," and they'll look at me and go, "What? She knows what she's talking about." So, as far as females out in the world, that gender bias is so broad ranged. It doesn't really just work.
no, stop having those biases and like think some just because someone is this or looks like that will be into this or that.
I've actually had a 20-minute discussion with a mechanic on
Cool,
2003 no, actually it was the 66 Ford Thunderbird and the different options that were available.
cool.
And I had a gentleman just stand by and slack-jawed at the amount of knowledge, and he knew the other gentleman better than I did, obviously. And he said, "I've never seen anyone keep up with this person."
Wow. No, and it's on the other hand, no shame. I have no idea what you're talking about, the engine or the model, and it's like, yeah, to me, it's also like could be shameful that I don't know.
But it's not your interest. Everyone has their topic of
It's
interest that
not
they're
because
going
a
to.
stereotype; it's because it's an interest.
Right,
It's a personal choice. If I want to
right.
be this or that, shouldn't be.
I mean, if you want to dive deep into Disney princesses and tell me all about them or whatever your
They're
interest is,
cool and let it go.
right, exactly. I'll be thrilled to hear whatever you want to tell me about because
Mm,
I love learning about whatever. I mean, I love learning about cultures. I love learning about your religion and your different practices, things like that. Because as a human being, I want to honor those differences,
yeah.
but I also want to support you as a human. I don't care what your gender identity is. It
We're
doesn't
people.
matter.
We're friends. We just want to hang with each other.
Pretty much.
Whatever we have between the legs,
Right.
that shouldn't be relevant. And I don't know. I knew that this conversation would extend. We need to kind of keep it a little narrowed,
Okay.
and we're running out of time. I also want to be respectful, but for sure, I think I'm gonna have you back. I'm please. I'm super happy to have these talks and see your perspective. You are an example, a model for so many of the people watching us. Please, in so many levels, Cheryl is outstanding. A model for girls. Pay attention what you can do, become, and have fun. Look how excited. And to close up, first, what recommendation would you give to girls, young, old, to kind of overcome this type of situations?
Actually, this is going to be to anybody, male or female, is to
Great.
follow your passion. And if you want to have a interesting book that is number of years old, I'm
Oh,
probably talking about 20, it's probably more like 30 years old. There's a book called Seven Tomorrows. And one of the seven tomorrows that I really identified with even back then was it's called High Tech, High Touch.
okay.
So the more high tech you are, So the more you're into computers, the more into those video games and things like that, the more high touch you're going to be, which means you're going to be getting into those things that are working with your hands.
Mm.
So they showed that a lot of the high tech people were going to be more like into even like musicians and woodworkers and craftspeople, just because of they're so involved with that brain, and the high tech part of it, that they need to actually bring it down into the body to be able to physically do something, and not just typing but actually doing something with their hands as well.
That's crazy. You just answered a like an internal question I had, because most of the people here behind us and taking these trainings, here giving talks in QA in general, most of them I'm like, they know an instrument, they are a musician, or not only music artists
Right,
here,
exactly.
drama,
That's exactly what
theater,
it is.
and there's like, that's why they all have so many sparks going on, right?
7 Tomorrows, and this book came out so far, so many years ago.
I'm getting it right after we are done here.
Absolutely.
Amiga Cheryl, before we let you go, where can people follow up with you? Where can they find you and get in touch?
I'm on LinkedIn. I work at NIPR. I've got a photograph of myself in my LinkedIn. So, and if you are ever in the Florida, Orlando area, you can probably find me at a car show.
Oh, cool. I'm not into that, but now I'm curious. I'm gonna try to get over there. And Amiga, thank you so much for coming, sharing, and hopefully, please, inspiring so many of
I
the
hope so.
viewers. If you are watching and you want to inspire someone else and share this conversation, please tell people you gotta come and watch this. Please, super important.
Absolutely.
Amiga Cheryl, thank you very much, everyone. We will be cutting it here for now. The action won't stop today. It's going to be a busy day.
Yes.
Thank you, and see you in a moment. Take care, everyone, and time